Hello, guys and gals, me, Mutahar, and never, ever pre-order. Don't ever get hyped for a video game, ladies and gentlemen. I know it sounds negative when I put it that way, but I'm actually being pretty serious. You know, yesterday when I was putting on that final touches for the internal affairs video, what was really funny about it too was that the same day, all right, there was a big reveal for a game known as Witcher 4. Now you guys probably know about Witcher 4, okay? You probably know about the Witcher series, pretty popular open world RPG. Well, yesterday they had an Unreal Engine 5 tech demo. Now I saw a whole bunch of these clips floating around on the internet, and everyone was like, "Whoa! Look at the graphics! Look at the graphics! Ooh, the thing looks damn near realistic." So it actually does look like a pretty good-looking tech demonstration, and apparently, according to the developers, this was running at 60 frames per second with ray tracing on what appears to be a PlayStation 5. Not even the PlayStation 5 Pro, from what I understand. The goddamn PlayStation 5 base. And obviously those horse testicles look great. I mean, the skin looks perfect on it. The water reflections look great. Everything's ray traced. I mean, they did not skimp on the visual quality for this game. And again, you know, this is something where I was a little bit hesitant. I was wondering, whoa, are they really giving up their CD, like, red engine for this? When in reality, it looks pretty nice. Look, they're walking through this in-game town, and apparently these are assets from the game. This, from what I understand, will be a town. And it looks pretty lively. You got people being thrown out. You got so much life happening. And I was like, all right, this looks pretty cool. Okay, maybe it's worth getting a little bit of hype for. And no, ladies and gentlemen, lest I remind you of the gaming industry and their lies. Now, obviously, I think CD Projekt Red, let's rip the Band-Aid off, okay? I'm going to remind you guys very quickly. Cyberpunk 2077 was revealed in a gameplay walkthrough back in E3 2018, when E3 was a real thing. And you know what? Back in the day, all right, and even for a lot of game developers, usually in their gameplay footage, it'll be work in progress does not represent the final look of the game. Now, these words, this whole sentence, if you will, does a lot of heavy lifting when it comes to the final release of the product. Now, obviously, back when this came out, I'll be real with you, I was completely hyped for Cyberpunk 2077. I was all in. I was ready. The moment that the actual E3 gameplay went down to this floor, like the bottom floor of the first apartment that you get in the game, the main apartment, when I saw the amount of characters walking, the crowds, like, forget the graphics and the lighting, a lot of this stuff isn't even close to as taxing as all of these NPCs and the variety of these NPCs on the screen. And the reason why this got me very hyped was, for the first time, I actually saw a real marketable increase on open world games since Grand Theft Auto 5. You know, I still say that Grand Theft Auto 5 is one of the most impressive open world games out there, and I was full ready for this. You know, I was expecting CD Projekt Red, with how good Witcher 3 was, that they were actually going to replicate the same game, and it did look like a fucking proper game. You know, it actually had the limitations on screen. However, obviously, we all remember when this game dropped, it was a big doo-doo dog shit. One of the big scariest things was they were not advertising what the game looked like on the base PlayStation 4, on the base Xbox One, and there was a good reason for that, because the game ran like dog shit. And even if you had a professional system or the PS5s or whatever, yeah, the game would run smoother, but the game would be locked down with a lot of actual game-breaking bugs. Like, forget the fact that the game didn't even look close to what it looked like in this E3 trailer at launch. The actual gameplay was so full of bugs and crashes that even if you could find the fun, I think everyone could probably agree that it was not a game that anybody should have pre-ordered. And pre-ordered they did, and hype they were. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, the hype for Cyberpunk 2077, in case you ever missed it, like, absolutely set the gaming world on storm, okay? This game was announced literally when I started my YouTube channel. It was released, like 2020, 2021, and it took literally until last year with the release of Phantom Liberty that the game actually finally is one of the best games that I ever played. You know, honestly, if Cyberpunk 2077 released in the state that it currently is in, back when it was originally released, I swear to God, this game would have probably broken so many different records. The perception around it would be so dramatically different. But it's also one of the reasons why I collect physical copies. Nobody can ever girl boss gaslight me into knowing that this game wasn't always perfect. I still have that PS4 version of Cyberpunk 2077. Shit, I'm still sitting on footage of an entire playthrough of that game at 1.0. And let me tell you, alright, it's like fucking being waterboarded with how bad it can get. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, to tie it all back to like The Witcher 4, obviously, I think CD Projekt Red has kind of earned a little bit of you know, okay, I think CD Projekt Red ain't entirely all that bad, okay? They've obviously earned back a lot of the goodwill, for me at least. But given Cyberpunk 2077 getting hyped for a video game that looks like this, looks good, by the way, is just not something worth doing until the gaming industry actually releases it. Like, yes, it looks nice, it looks impressive, and a lot of the tech is really cool, but given the fact that it's Unreal Engine 5, what scares the shit out of me is how it's going to run on the PC. Now, there are two things that scare me as somebody who games on the PC, okay? Whenever I go on Steam and I'm hitting that add to cart button, the things that scare me are A, de novo anti-cheat, okay, or de novo at all. Just having that dog shit near my computer makes me feel like I have fucking AIDS crawled up my ass and fucking metastasized through my system. It's just not fun, okay? And then the second of all is Unreal Engine, okay? Unreal Engine is just one of those game engines where if developers use it right, games can look just jaw-droppingly amazing, okay? But sometimes I personally feel that some of the feature set in the game, nanite, lumen, ray tracing, all of that stuff, I feel personally that if I enable some of these graphical features that makes games look marginally better, like toggle on ray tracing, oh, it looks kind of better, 30 frames per second. Toggle it off, oh yeah, the game doesn't look all that great. I mean, the game doesn't look as good, maybe like, 5%, shittier, 120 frames per second. You bet your ass I'm slapping that ray tracing right the fuck off. Like, who do you think you is, brother? I'm getting 4 times the frames without this dog water. But yeah, it makes me worry because this game does look pretty, and obviously I don't really have issues with Unreal Engine games on consoles, but usually for PC, bro, my experience has been stuttering and stuttering and stuttering. I mean, these games release effectively crippled on PC, and I don't have a lot of faith in Unreal Engine 5. I think the only Unreal Engine 5 game I've played on PC that actually worked day one and didn't require me tinkering probably was Fortnite, and I'm sure that's literally because it's fucking Epic Games putting the game together. Now, one of the reasons why I don't always get hyped too is obviously a lot of game developers, when it comes to their E3 reveals or just pre-release footage, there are versions of games that, literally release incomplete, right? And it takes years until the games are finally patched where, people are actually going to sit there and be like, all right, this is finally what was first advertised. I remember from like 2 years ago on Reddit, there was like this post where the people took the 2014 gameplay demo for Witcher 3. And obviously even at launch, it didn't look nearly as good until, of course, the complete edition where fucking, they actually added in a whole bunch of upgrades to the game, put it out on PS5, Series X systems, and it now started to look better than what we actually saw in the original E3 2014 demo. Now, for me, getting hyped for video games because of how good they look doesn't even extend entirely just to every company. Maybe there's one logical exception that I have, and that's probably Rockstar Games, and that's only for the reason that typically when you look at Rockstar Games, a lot of video games that they showcase actually do get an upgrade. Like, if you look at old trailers for Red Dead Redemption 2, and compare it to the final actual release that you could buy, yeah, there was actually a marketable upgrade. GTA 4, yeah, you look at the old trailers when the game was launching on the PS3, Xbox 360, and by the time it released, there wasn't really a graphical downgrade. And really, same with GTA 4. So they kind of earned over, basically almost 2 decades, the right for us to kind of trust them when it meant showing gameplay. Now, even though I just praised Rockstar Games for not lying to the consumer, let's not forget, 3 years ago at this point, we were blessed with Grand Theft Auto, the trilogy. Now, I remember when I saw this trailer, I was like, whoa, I get to play the 3 GTA games I grew up with back to back with upgraded visuals? Oh my God, it looks actually amazing until the game drops, and it's probably one of the buggiest dog shit releases. And it really did take probably 3 years to actually patch this game up. You know, for a very short while, this was a game that was actually better to play on your phone than actual PCs and consoles, because somehow when Netflix got involved, they made sure that like lighting was better represented to the original games that they were remastering from. But yeah, you can't trust gaming companies, because every time you see footage like this, it could be a complete lie. You know, one of the biggest sets of E3 lies I ever saw was probably Ubisoft. Okay, so 12 years ago, back in E3 2012, when we thought the world was going to end or some shit, this was something that Ubisoft showed. And by the way, this is still publicly available to view. I am surprised that Ubisoft was never sued for what you're about to see. But back then, I was blown away for Watch Dogs, right? Watch Dogs, which I still think is a great game. This is actual footage they showed. Now, it looked amazing. The rain effects are wild. This is before the days of goddamn ray tracing. To see one traffic light go off and completely destroy all of these cars and mess up traffic was something I was excited to see. Like, this shit was kind of wild too. You could like take cover while you're getting shot up by mobsters, rescue people who were stuck inside. I mean, the amount of detail you were seeing was just never replicated at all in the final product whatsoever. You know, it's insane that every time I watch this, I think to myself, there was probably a version of this game sitting inside a Ubisoft server. We just never ended up getting it. Now, there's been a lot of fan mods and patches to get this stuff working, but it's still nowhere close to the lie that Ubisoft sold us. And of course, you can imagine when this game finally dropped, everything sort of changed. It didn't look as good as this. It didn't look close to as good as this. But yeah, it's one of those things where like if you pre-order a product and you get hyped for something, do not ever trust any of these gaming companies. It's crazy to think that this still turned out to be a pretty good game in my opinion, and Watch Dogs 2 was even better. Watch Dogs Legion was like, you know, pulling my pubes out one by one, I'll be completely real. You know, it's actually one of those franchises from Ubisoft where they released a game, they literally only made 3 mainline entries and killed the entire franchise. It's actually wild. And you know, this level of lying and deception didn't just start here. Like 13 years ago, this is a clip from E3 2005, when I personally thought as a kid, whoa, the PS3 graphics are looking real good. This is a 480p version of Killzone 2, and nowadays, you're probably not going to just sit here and believe the lies. This is a pre-rendered cinematic. But at least thankfully in this case, the final actual game still looked really goddamn good. Now look, I'm not here to say that you shouldn't get excited for the next up-and-coming video game. Look, I'm excited for games like Death Stranding 2, okay? I'm excited to play a lot of games that are coming out. But when it comes for video games that are like 4 or 5 years out, this is the same hype cycle that I saw myself jumping into with Cyberpunk 2077, at least when it came to Witcher 3. A game like Witcher is probably not going to drop during this gaming generation. I really personally believe that Witcher 4 will probably drop at some point down when the PS6 is a thing, when the Xbox Series X, whatever the hell they're going to name their system, if they even have a follow-up system, which I think they will, or probably on things like the Switch 2. But I don't actually personally believe that this game is going to drop right now. So getting excited for the tech demonstration and getting hyped for the game itself, the industry is not past, you know, this footage does not represent the game, all right? Anytime I see that in anything, I just turn the entire video off. I turn my brain off. I just realize this is not what the final product is actually going to look like. And while we've made strides in being honest to consumers, you know, when game developers sell us a product, sometimes it's always worth being hesitant, especially when looking at the track record of a lot of these companies where they show you something that looks so good that you almost can't believe it to be true. And then turns out release day, when that comes, it actually wasn't true whatsoever. And all you're doing is sitting on a pre-ordered pile of dog shit that you probably should have waited on. You probably should have let the company cook, release it first, and earn that $70 or $80 price tag that now they're charging for. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. I am out.